Have you ever felt like you're drowning in a sea of emotions, struggling with life's difficulties and challenges, unsure of how to move forward? It could be from past mistakes, falls, or the feeling of being left behind in the journey of life. But do you know that all these emotions and experiences are not random? They are deeply connected to what is coming in the future. We often ask ourselves, why is this happening to me? And it's easy to fall into the trap of despair. But what if I told you that acceptance and trust in the process of life will help you find true peace and happiness? This is the message that Buddhism brings, a message not just for reflection, but also the key to changing how we face every challenge in life. Imagine how your life would change if you learned to accept yourself with all your flaws and mistakes. When you stop judging yourself and replace it with love and compassion, you will feel true liberation, freedom from the unnecessary pressure that you've been carrying all along. In this video, we will explore profound lessons from Buddhism that can help you expand your perspective and change your approach to life. These lessons will not only help you find peace within your soul, but will also guide you to live with wisdom and compassion. 1. Acceptance. Discovering the inner strength. Accepting yourself is the first step in the journey to inner peace. We live in a world where success, perfection, and never failing are considered the standards. But in reality, striving to become a perfect version of ourselves only leads to stress and exhaustion. We all have flaws, mistakes, and scars of our own. Buddhism teaches us that accepting ourselves without judgment or criticism, but instead with love and forgiveness, is the key to opening the door to transformation. One beautiful story in Buddhism is that of a monk who understood that everything in life has its reason. When this monk accidentally broke his cup, instead of feeling sad or blaming himself, he accepted it as an unavoidable event and continued to live peacefully. This is proof that when we stop judging and accept our failures and mistakes, we experience true freedom. This is the power of acceptance. For every mistake, every wrong decision you've made, instead of feeling guilty or regretful, try changing your perspective. Think of those mistakes as valuable lessons that help you grow and become stronger. Only when you truly accept yourself can you open your heart to positive change in life. 2. Trust in the process of life. Everything happens for a reason. One of the profound lessons that Buddhism offers is about trusting the natural process of life. Sometimes we feel like everything is chaotic and everything around us is a challenge. However, there is an important thing we must remember. Everything in life happens for a reason and a greater purpose. Never rush to judge an event in life based on its surface. It is patience and slowing down that help us realize that sometimes the difficulties we face are opportunities leading to something better. The story of the monk and the wild horse in his garden is a wonderful example of this lesson. When the horse appeared, everyone in the village thought it was a great blessing. However, the monk calmly responded, "Who knows whether this is a blessing or a curse?" And when his son fell and broke his leg while trying to tame the horse, everyone again thought it was misfortune. But the monk still held his calm. Who knows whether this is a blessing or a curse? Eventually, when war broke out, all the young men in the village were called to serve in the army, but the monk's son was spared because he was injured. This story teaches us that nothing in life is random. Every event is linked to something greater, something we may not understand at the moment. Therefore, instead of stressing and worrying about present events, we should learn to trust the process of life, for everything happens for a reason. 3. Patience. The slow but steady journey. When we face challenges in life, it's natural to want everything to happen right away. We live in a world that increasingly values speed, instant gratification, and quick fixes. Whether it's a personal goal, a career milestone, or simply trying to overcome a struggle, there is often a sense of urgency, a pressure to achieve success immediately. However, one of the core teachings of Buddhism is patience. Not everything can or should happen instantly. True growth, peace, and transformation come not from rushing, but from walking steadily on the path, even when progress feels slow. Patience is the practice of acknowledging that good things take time. It is about trusting that the process itself is just as important as the outcome. Like a tree that requires years to grow tall and strong, we too need time to mature, to gain wisdom, and to build the strength necessary to overcome life's challenges. In our modern world, we often forget the value of slow, deliberate effort. We expect results to come quickly, and when they don't, we feel frustrated, discouraged, or even defeated. But Buddhism teaches us that the greatest achievements are often the ones that come after years of patience, persistence, and quiet inner work. Consider the story of the bamboo tree. Unlike many other plants that sprout and grow relatively quickly, the bamboo tree spends the first several years of its life growing roots deep underground, invisible to the naked eye. It seems as if nothing is happening. Yet once the roots are established, the bamboo shoots up at an astonishing rate, sometimes growing over 90 feet in just a few weeks. This is a beautiful metaphor for the role of patience in personal growth. In the early stages of any journey, it often feels like there is little visible progress. But every step, every small effort is laying the foundation for something much greater. For many of us, patience is a difficult lesson to learn. We live in an era of constant stimulation, where everything from food to information is just a click away. Our minds are trained to expect immediate rewards, and yet this mindset can be a source of deep frustration and suffering when life doesn't comply with our timeline. Patience, however, invites us to let go of this sense of urgency and instead embrace the rhythm of life. It encourages us to understand that growth isn't always about speed, but rather about the depth and quality of the experience. This doesn't mean passively waiting for things to happen, of course. Patience is not about inaction. It's about mindful, steady effort. Just as the bamboo doesn't remain dormant but continues to strengthen its roots, we too must keep taking steps toward our goals, even when the results aren't immediately visible. It's the ongoing commitment, even in the face of difficulty, that brings us closer to who we are meant to be. I remember when I first began my journey of personal growth, I would often feel frustrated when I didn't see immediate results. It was easy to think that I wasn't doing enough or that I wasn't making progress. But over time, I realized that every small effort, every act of kindness, every moment of reflection, every choice to continue moving forward was contributing to a larger transformation. The change was not always obvious in the moment, but as I looked back over time, I could see how far I had come. Patience teaches us the beauty of trust. Trust in ourselves, in the process, and the unfolding of life. It asks us to surrender the need for immediate answers and outcomes, and to find peace in knowing that everything happens in its own time. By embracing patience, we open ourselves to a deeper experience of life, one that is not hurried but rich, meaningful, and fulfilling. In the end, the slow and steady journey is the one that leads to lasting change, inner peace, and a wisdom that can only come from allowing things to grow at their own pace. 4. The power of meditation, connecting with inner peace. One of the most powerful tools that Buddhism provides us to seek peace is meditation. Meditation is not a method to erase all thoughts or cleanse the mind, but rather a way to observe and accept thoughts without being controlled by them. When we meditate, we create space for the mind to relax, allowing us to see more clearly the nature of the emotions and thoughts we are experiencing. In Buddhism, meditation is a practice that helps train the mind, enabling us to awaken and gain a deeper understanding of ourselves. One beautiful story in Buddhism involves a student who went to ask his teacher about the restlessness in his mind. The student shared that, despite his efforts to find peace, he couldn't escape the chaotic thoughts in his head. His teacher took a cup of muddy water, shook it, and asked him to wait for a moment. After a while, the mud settled and the water became clear. The teacher said, "Your mind is like this. When you let your mind be still, clarity will naturally arise." This is an incredibly important lesson I realized in my meditation journey. At first, when I began meditating, my mind was very noisy, and I often felt frustrated when I couldn't stop all my thoughts. However, I learned that meditation is not about forcing the mind to stop thinking, but rather observing those thoughts without letting them dictate our emotions. And as I persisted, I experienced an inner peace like never before, a quietude that I had never known. 5. Letting go of control and flowing with life. One of the profound lessons Buddhism teaches us is the art of letting go of control. In life, we often feel the need to control everything, from our work, relationships, to even our future. However, Buddhism teaches us that life is a natural flow, and we cannot and should not control everything. The story of a man standing on the edge of a cliff, clinging to a branch, is a clear example of this lesson. He was exhausted but afraid to let go because he thought he would fall. But what he didn't realize was that right beneath his feet was solid ground. His fear and desire to control kept him in a state of helplessness. This story teaches us that when we try too hard to control everything, we only create more stress and suffering for ourselves. I realized that when I stopped trying to control everything and learned to let go, life became much easier to breathe through. I no longer felt the pressure to make everything go according to my plan. I learned to accept that some things will happen that I cannot predict, and when I trust the process of life, I begin to feel peaceful and content with what I have. Life doesn't always go as we wish, but when we allow it to flow naturally, we will see that everything happens for a reason. 6. Compassion, loving kindness, and self-acceptance. One of the most important and profound lessons from Buddhism is compassion, not only for others but also for ourselves. We often tend to be the harshest critics of ourselves, blaming ourselves for mistakes and shortcomings. But Buddhism teaches that compassion begins with ourselves. If we cannot love and be kind to ourselves, we will not be able to share that love and kindness with others. Compassion is the key to overcoming feelings of guilt, shame, and regret. One story in Buddhism tells of a man who felt great remorse for his past mistakes and couldn't forgive himself. A teacher taught him, saying, "If a bird has a broken wing because of its faults, how can it ever fly again?" This statement helped me realize that if we continue to hold on to negative emotions, we will never be able to move forward. Compassion, understanding, and forgiveness are how we open our hearts and continue walking on our path. I used to be very harsh on myself whenever I made a mistake, and it only made me feel inadequate. But when I began to practice compassion and forgive myself, I felt much lighter. I learned to view myself with love rather than blame and criticism. This is a priceless lesson I want to share with you because I believe that self-compassion is the foundation for living a happy and fulfilling life. Number 7. Integrating Buddhism into daily life, a new journey. As we continue on our journey, one important question that I once asked myself was, how can we truly integrate the lessons of Buddhism into our daily lives? How do we not just learn the theory but also practice these principles in every moment of life? Buddhism is not just a theory. It is a way of life, and it requires us to have patience and self-discipline to apply it in reality. Buddhism teaches us about compassion, tolerance, and letting go of control. These principles not only help us live in peace, but they also help us face every challenge and change in life without feeling threatened. This requires us to practice patience, acceptance, and compassion not just with others, but also with ourselves. When I began consciously practicing Buddhism in my daily life, I realized that these principles are not just applicable when I meditate or attend teachings. Every day I try to bring these lessons to life in the smallest moments, in how I treat others, how I face challenges, and how I treat myself. Number 8. Accepting imperfection. Trusting the process. Accepting that life will never be perfect is an important step in learning how to live in peace. In modern society, where perfection and quick success are often praised, it's easy to feel the pressure to do everything right all the time. However, Buddhism teaches us that imperfection is the essence of life. It is this imperfection that creates opportunities for us to learn, grow, and develop. This is a big lesson I had to learn. Not everything will go according to plan, and not every desire will be fulfilled in a short time. Instead of craving perfection, I learned to love and accept myself in every stage of life. This doesn't mean I stopped striving or giving up on goals, but rather, I've learned not to overvalue failure or mistakes. When we learn to accept imperfection, we also learn to view every situation with gentleness and acceptance. We don't need to fight life. Instead, we can flow with its natural course. When I began practicing accepting imperfection in my life, I felt much lighter and freer. 9. Focusing on the present, living fully in each moment. One of the important lessons from Buddhism is living fully in each moment. When we are constantly worrying about the future or regretting the past, we miss out on the precious moments of the present. This is why meditation and mindfulness play such an important role in helping us return to the present and truly experience each moment. I realized that when I stopped worrying about what I cannot control and instead focused on what I'm doing right now, life became much more meaningful. Every task, every conversation, every moment with family or friends became precious. When we learn to live in the present, we also learn to appreciate the small things that we may have overlooked before. This requires mindfulness, not just during meditation, but in every situation of life. This mindfulness helps us realize that no matter what happens, we can still find peace and happiness in the present moment. 10. Flowing with life's currents, letting go of control. A crucial lesson in Buddhism is learning how to let go of control. It's natural to want to control everything in life, our future, our relationships, our careers. After all, we live in a world that often values control and certainty. We are taught that if we work hard enough, plan enough, and control enough, we can shape our destiny exactly the way we want. However, Buddhism offers a different perspective. Not everything in life is within our control. And in fact, trying to control everything often leads to more stress, frustration, and suffering. Life is like flowing water. It constantly moves, shifts, and evolves. And no matter how hard we try, we cannot stop its flow. If we try to control every wave, every ripple, we will only tire ourselves out, caught in a constant struggle. Buddhism teaches us that instead of trying to fight against the flow, we should learn to harmonize with it. It's not about being passive or giving up on our goals. Rather, it's about recognizing that there are things beyond our influence and accepting them with peace and grace. This doesn't mean that we don't act or have goals. It simply means that we must learn to accept that not everything is within our control. By letting go of the need to control every outcome, we free ourselves from the shackles of constant worry and anxiety. In doing so, we create space for inner peace. We learn to trust the natural unfolding of life, knowing that sometimes the universe has plans that are better than anything we could have imagined. For years, I struggled with this idea. I thought that if I just planned enough, if I just worked a little harder, I could control my future and ensure my success. But I soon realized that no matter how much effort I put in, there were always factors beyond my reach, other people's decisions, unexpected life events, and the changing tides of the world. And the more I tried to control them, the more stressed and exhausted I became. One of the biggest turning points came when I realized that trying to control everything was not bringing me peace, but taking it away. It was like holding on to a tightrope for dear life, not realizing that I was draining myself of energy and clarity. When I stopped holding on so tightly, I could finally breathe. Letting go of control didn't mean I was giving up or becoming passive. It meant that I was choosing to trust life, trust myself, and embrace the flow of existence without fighting it at every turn. I remember a particular moment when I faced a significant challenge, something I had spent months preparing for. Despite all my efforts, things didn't unfold as I expected. I was devastated at first, feeling helpless and defeated. But over time, I realized that the outcome was not a failure, but a stepping stone to something bigger. By letting go of my need to control the situation, I made room for new possibilities, new opportunities, and even new lessons that I would have missed had I stubbornly clung to my plan. The beauty of letting go is that it creates space for us to embrace what comes next. When we release our tight grip on life, we allow the universe to guide us toward new paths we may not have even considered. Life's currents can lead us to places of growth, joy, and connection, places we would never have found by forcing things to fit into our limited view of what should happen. Letting go of control doesn't mean being passive. It's about trusting that the flow of life will bring us where we need to go. It's the trust that what is meant for us will come in due time. When I started practicing this, I noticed that life became lighter. Instead of fighting against every challenge, I began to see each obstacle as a part of the natural rhythm of life, a rhythm that I could follow with trust and acceptance. As I let go of control, I began to find freedom. Not the kind of freedom that comes from having everything go according to plan, but the freedom that comes from accepting the uncertainty of life with open arms. This freedom is profound, for it frees us from the constant need to prove ourselves or control the outcomes. We learn to be present, to trust in the unfolding, and to be at peace with whatever life brings. When we let go, we make space for joy, spontaneity, and the unexpected beauty that life has to offer. Conclusion: a path of learning and growth. The greatest lesson I've learned from Buddhism is acceptance, trust in life, and compassion. Every day we can practice these lessons in our daily lives. Don't wait for some day in the future to begin changing, because change begins today in the smallest actions. Let compassion guide you in each moment. Trust the process of life, and always be patient with yourself. Peace is not a destination, it's a journey of learning, growing, and loving. To live a fulfilling life, we need to practice these values daily, even in the simplest things. If this video has helped you find a little peace and wisdom in life, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your story. We look forward to hearing from you and accompanying you on the journey to finding inner peace and happiness.